World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kier Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. This is Tony Rogers, your host for Urbanology, The Art of War. I hope all is well with everyone. We will, in a week or so, get into spring. I know that many of you look forward to spring and summer, as I do. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we did not have a very brittle, cold winter compared to what's happening across the country. But it is what it is, I suppose. Global warming is here. I had some friends in California who their children had never seen snow before, but that's the sign of the times. And we're supposed to, I would suggest that we should try to just go with the flow and see how things will work out for us if we just have faith in what we're doing and, as they say, go with the flow. Today, I have a guest, as you know, through the Harlem Tourism Board and Urbanology Systems, as well as Soul City. We've been doing a lot of work in different African locations in Senegal, Gambia, Ghana. We are doing some work in partnership with a number of people in Nigeria as it relates to beginning to develop something that in 2023 will be very interesting. The Blaze Channel, which we'll talk a little bit more about it as that develops. But there's a restaurant chain that many people have been enjoying throughout the country, the Swahili Village chain. And it has allowed for the diaspora to appreciate the wonderful food that comes out of Africa, whether it's Kenya, Nigeria, or the like. I have as my guest today the person who heads up marketing and advertising for the Swahili Villages chain, Mr. Ike Nwaneri. Uh, and I would like for you to meet him. He had an emergency in a sense, and he's driving. So I'm glad that he decided to continue to stay with us with the interview. So I appreciate your do it to it, no matter what is happening. And I appreciate you joining us. Tell the listeners who may not know about the Swahili chain, and we'll get a little bit about you after that. But I want to make sure that people understand uh, this wonderful, which I'm just becoming aware of, restaurant chain. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you just give the listeners some information about the Swahili restaurant chain and what its origin is and where you are?
So the quickest, the short story long, the long story short is it's an African fine dining restaurant. It's the first of its kind. A lot of African fine dining restaurants concepts have not been birthed in the world, and it's very unique. It's very refreshing because the African culture has always been around. Food, music, dance, representation, in many different ways that have kind of been just floating under the hemisphere. But now, as it gets to have its global acclaim and attention, the timing was just right. But this is a brand that's been around for over 10 years, and now is on its third location. First location was in the state of Maryland. Second location was in the District of Columbia. And third location now is in Newark, New Jersey. So the New Jersey location serves the New Jersey and New York audience and market. The Washington, D.C. location serves, of course, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And the Maryland location serves the Maryland, Baltimore, and Delaware. So these restaurants are also placed in a community intentionally that has a very diverse population. So we can serve our diverse population of Africans and our lovers that are non-Africans of the African culture. So when you come into every restaurant, you experience four things. You experience very delicious African food. You experience very engaging African music and entertainment. You experience fine dining service, right? And then you experience a wonderful ambiance that reminds you of the culture, the vibe, the look, everything from our furniture, the walls, the bar setup, the lighting, the even down to the aroma, all remind you of, the African flavor, the African spice, the music. So that way we satisfy all your senses, your taste buds with the food. We satisfy your earbuds with the music. We satisfy your skin with the ambiance, right? And that way you always feel like you're coming home in every restaurant. So we're very consistent with that in all locations. And we're planning to do many more locations around the country.
Yeah, I believe that at some point you're looking to come into Manhattan, which would be...
Yes. We're planning to come further into Manhattan because apparently New Jersey and New York, just like Washington, D.C., the metropolitan area, you can have one in Manhattan, New York, and you can have another one in New Jersey. You serve a broader audience. The New Jersey location right now serves people from New Jersey, people from New York, even down to people from Boston and Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing we love about tri-state regions is tri-state regions are also very diverse for the most part. A lot of Africans that come from Africa usually move into tri-state regions, be it the Boston, Philadelphia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., New York, New Jersey, things like that, Atlanta, Minnesota, Tri-Cities, or even Dallas.
Yeah, I know that here in Harlem, there's a really large Senegalese community. Matter of fact, where our office is on 116th Street is called Little Senegal. so you're absolutely right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ike. Where you were, how you
I
grew
like
up,
to call
how you get
myself a
into.
marketing engineer.
Okay.
I like to call myself a marketing engineer. Grew up in Nigeria. Also grew up in the United States. Went back and forth with the UK. And living on the 2.5 continents has really exposed me to a lot of different diverse people. I've worked with a lot of different people from Africa, from the United States, from the Latino Americas, from Europe. And I've just gotten to learn how a lot of people think, how a lot of consumers behave, how business owners get encouraged to start their businesses. But more importantly, I'm just a people person. I'm in the business of people. I'm in the business of learning people, understanding people, satisfying people. And went to Howard University, studied computer science and marketing. And that's how I got to create my strategic marketing and technology company, which
Mm-hmm.
today has served, hundreds of business owners across the country and some outside the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really exposed me to a life that I love, a life of just taking challenges, of making something small large, or taking large problems and resolving them for large corporations. So we've been involved with corporations anywhere from Fortune 50 organizations like Marriott and McDonald's and BMW, down to people that own restaurants and salons and spas. We've consulted for a lot of them, everything from their marketing strategy to how they executed their advertising campaigns. Just a lot of these things have occurred over time, and a lot of lessons learned. It's just been a beautiful journey.
So, in marketing of your restaurants, is there certain target market that you focus on, or is it basically um, the diaspora of itself, or who are you? Who do you promote to?
So what's funny about it is the restaurants taught me a lot of things about the world as well, right? So I'll take the restaurant location in DC, for example. The restaurant location in DC serves majority of non-Africans from 11 a.m. all the way down to 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of the customers that come into the restaurant are non-Africans. Non-Africans because, our food has flavor, food has nice taste, the music, they love it. A lot of them have never experienced a lot of food and music and an ambiance all in one place at like 3 o'clock, right? When they come for late lunch. Usually when they go for lunch, there's light music, very light music, or no music at all. But in our case, our music's pumping really good. It's almost like a whole different atmosphere when you come in from your workspace. So
Mm.
it's a very refreshing feeling when you come in. The food is extremely delicious. There is no salt and pepper shakers in any of our restaurants. Our flavor satisfies every customer in depth. So they never ask for salt and pepper shakers. They never ask for extra seasoning. And it's also part of the African culture. Whenever you go into a home of Africans, for the most part, I'm from Nigeria. It's we give you very good portions of food to eat. We are almost offended when you ask for salt and pepper because we believe we put so much into the food, so there's no need to ask for salt and pepper. It's almost like saying, "Excuse me, can I season the food? You didn't cook it right." So all those type of similarity of our culture we bring into the restaurant chain. So that's why when you come into any Swahili Village restaurant, not only do you not only are you served like you're coming into our house. We don't have salt and pepper shakers. The food comes out the way you would want it, lukewarm, the temperature, the taste, the flavor. It's not too spicy. That way, where if you want it to be extra spicy, then you ask, and then we have the
Mm.
spices that we can give to you. But outside that, um, it's almost like you're taking a journey or a trip to the
Mhm.
motherland every single time you walk in the doors.
Give us the website so people can go on and kind of see where your locations are. And I believe you could actually make reservations on the site too. Is that correct?
So the website is SwahiliVillages.com. Why Swahili Villages? Because each restaurant serves a different village, and each restaurant is a village on its own. So we believe the brand, as we build more locations, we are building villages across the world. That's how we
Interesting.
look at it. So SwahiliVillages.com. Swahili, which is the most popular language in the whole continent, and then the word villages, because we look at it as every continent we serve, every location serves a community that it's built in. We strive to not just be a business that makes money from great food and drinks, but we also get involved heavily within the community. Every location, we're friendly with the city, we're friendly with the mayors, we're friendly with, different officials of the city, different council members of the city. And we try to satisfy different things that they want to accomplish in the city, right?
Mhm.
So we're an advocate for different initiatives in those cities. We're not just a restaurant, we actually advocate for certain initiatives that those mayors and leaders want to accomplish.
When you indicated that you grew up in Nigeria, when did you first come to the U.S. to go to school?
So I arrived in the United States.
Your mic may not be.
Ask the question one more time.
Yeah, I can't.
Say that again.
That's good. Couldn't hear you at first. Now I got you. My question to you is that when did you first come from Nigeria to the U.S.?
So I came from Nigeria to the US August 28th, 1998.
Okay.
I actually came to this very airport that I'm in right now.
Uh-huh.
That's this very airport that I'm in is where I actually came to.
And did you have family here, or did you? Your sound is can't hear you. Can you hear me? You may be in a zone where the signal is not. Can you hear me now? It's a famous commercial.
Yes,
Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
now.
Okay. So
Yes.
you said that you came from Nigeria to the airport that you're in now. Is this the Newark airport? Oh no, DC. You uh, are in DC, and you went to Howard University. Did you have relatives here, or did you? How did how did you kind of get yourself acclimated to uh, a new lifestyle and such? Was that difficult for you?
So I've always been
I think we might have lost him. One of the things when you're in the airport, sometimes the signal goes kind of crazy because it is an airport. So there are some issues that we have to look at. However, we'll work with him. We uh, wanted to continue this interview because we thought it was important for many viewers to understand that this chain is there, and perhaps to allow for people to begin to again, awakening the sleeping giant is the concept that has been developed um, by the tourism board and in conjunction with Soul City and Art World Travel and a number of entities, starting in Senegal, to begin to get more African and African Americans connected to the culture of Africa. Um, the colonizer has been very good, very successful. Um, in my time, if you called me black at one point, I would look at you as, well, why are you doing that? Because that was a long, long, long time ago. I'm aging myself, but um afros and what people, and I say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, came at a time that many Africans who were born in America still had been brainwashed to the point where they never really seen the brilliance or the intelligence that came from Africa. It was hidden colors is a series that really allows for us to begin to see, thanks to information technology, which can be traced back to the genius of Africans in many cases, has allowed for people to be able to connect in a way that has not happened, and perhaps it was that way thousands of years ago. There was a way to communicate, perhaps, that we don't really know about. Um, uh, there are batteries that have been found that are thousands of years old, and obviously there was some sort of technology that allowed for the pyramids in Kemet to be developed in the nature that they were before telescopes and all of the things that allow for our current understanding of not only ourselves but as far as how the universe works. So there's a knowledge that had been pushed aside, whitewashed, so to speak, of the things that the Africans who were born in America had been disconnected with. And many people, whether it's Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, uh, the whole Pan African movement was developed in order to reconnect that type of understanding and energy. But all things happen when they're supposed to. And it's a very, uh, I guess you could say, dangerous initiative because obviously there are powers that would prefer Africa to be divided, African and African so-called Americans not to understand the connection with their home. So that's why the project Awakening the Sleeping Giant, because there are Africans all over the world. And the idea is that if that connection ever comes together where people begin to really understand that connectivity and in many cases work together, because we're talking about uh, not only intelligence, but as far as capital, there is so much that can come out of the foundation of this concept of Pan Africanism that can help the world, actually. It's I was watching a film where there was a discussion, I believe, at a university. Hey, can you hear me? I'm kind of ad libbing to see whether can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Ike? I think he's
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
okay. That's great. I was doing a little ad libbing, waiting for you to. Uh, uh, at the Apollo, there used to be a brother Sandman Sims, and whenever things were slow, he would get out and just start tap dancing. you know, so that's what you do when you're live. But
Right.
getting back to our conversation, you went to Howard University. How did you connect with the partners to develop uh, the Swahili village?
So I'm not the founder of Swahili Village. Kevin Onyona is the executive chef and founder of Swahili Village.
Mm-hmm.
He already started developing it.
Mm-hmm.
I just joined him 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just joined him 2 years ago to lead the entire marketing and sales and just the reinvention of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been doing this for about 10 years at this point. It's been a passion of his. He learned how to cook from his grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
He basically invented the way you combine African fine dining food and cuisine with entertainment and music, all in a very, very African ambiance that satisfies the senses and takes you home. That's what he's done wonderfully at this point. And now it's a matter of scaling it across the world, one city at a time.
So
So
you made an interesting statement. You said that music is if you go into one of the restaurants at 3 or 4 o'clock, you not only have good food, but you have good entertainment. Is that?
let me explain how serious the music is to you. If the music goes off, there is a protocol almost like there's a fire in every restaurant. No, I'm not joking with you. We actually have our own Swahili Village radio where we curate music in the cloud and it plays the same music in all locations. So our music, we're not reliant on CD players or an MP3 or somebody's playlist. We actually curate our own music that we feel is the best music for every single hour of the day. And we play it down from the cloud into all locations. So if you go into all the locations, the music playing is the exact same music every time. Not exact same music every time in your experience, but the same music playing in Newark, New Jersey right now is the same exact music playing in DC right now. It's the same exact music playing in the Maryland location right now, because it all comes from our Swahili Village cloud radio service, which we built in-house. So that's how much we invested in providing that musical and
Well, again, Ike is doing his best to make sure that we're on. Every time he comes on, we get a glimpse of this, but I'm sure you can understand why I thought it was important as we talk about the African diaspora is to get as much information about Swahili Village, the Swahili Village chain as possible. And you can go to swahilivillage.com to learn more about the locations, the cuisine, and the like. But we got Ike back, so I could. Besides the music being, we had talked about this in every location. Um, do you change as far as we talked about drinks or food menus based on the location, Jersey compared, let's say, to DC? Is
okay. All the food menus are the same in all restaurants. All the food menus are the same, and Kevin Onyona himself invents and comes together with his great corporate chef named Alfredo Hernandez and they put together whatever new items we want to, distribute to the restaurants. And we test them. And once we realize it's something that's worth it and something that scores, we put it into a test. If it works, we distribute it in what we call our test menu phase. It doesn't get on the final menu. It goes on like a menu insert. And then after that, it goes on to the final menu. When it makes it to the final menu, the next menu rollout occurs. So food-wise, in every restaurant, all the food is the same. Drinks, all the drink menus are 90% the same. Now, that little 5 to 10% is because locally, beverage-wise, there's distilleries coming up, breweries coming up. So they have some local beers, some local wines, local whiskeys. And a lot of our audience also drinks whiskeys after work, local wines. And there's a big trend in locally made brands as such. So we support those communities too. So in New Jersey, we're supporting about 4 or 5 distilleries locally by acquiring their brands and selling the restaurant. That's our way of impacting the community as well. Same thing with DC, same thing with Maryland. Food-wise, we get our distributor, the same distributor for all the food items. So that way we keep the consistency of the food, because that is very important. Whenever you're doing multiple locations, the consistency of your food is very important. The flavor, the tenderness, all that. So that's how we address that.
You're making me hungry.
Oh, no. I have no choice. You better be careful, because if you ask questions like, how is this food item made? I'll mess you up on this interview. When I start telling you stuff about how we use coconut milk in the spinach, how we actually not just fry the wings, we're putting the combi oven to use steam and make it soft. Oh my gosh, it'll mess you up. So, but you asked for it. So
now I know that you had also mentioned that a large portion of your menu is vegetarian, rices and vegetables, and
about 75 to 80% of the menu is actually vegetarian. Rices, vegetables. There's a lot of vegetables on our menu. There's beans, red beans, lentils, plantains. There's so many vegetarian and vegan options. And then, for the non-vegan options, we have the fish, the meat, the lamb chops, the oxtail, the whole fish, the fish chunks,
the goat,
and the grilled goat, which is my favorite. Thanks for reminding me. But yeah, yes. So that's what's been going on.
So, in the development of the chain, are you looking at franchising? Is that part of that plan?
That's a decision that Kevin Onyona, the CEO, is going to have to decide with the board. But for now, the biggest thing he's focusing on is building a business that creates opportunity to help other Africans and Blacks, create success for themselves through partnerships of different forms. So that's how he's doing it now. He has that's his arrangement. And then from then on, hey, who knows what the future holds, right?
Is there any strategy as opening up a business restaurant opportunity in Nigeria? Now, when you become,
it's been talked about. It's in the works. It's on the books. But one thing Kevin always says is, with every location, he signs 20-year leases. Nothing less. That shows how far down we're thinking. So we're not just in here for 1 or 2 years. We're in here for the long haul.
How did the COVID lockdown affect you guys?
We were open throughout COVID. We never closed during COVID. That's number one. It was very challenging. But we decided to do a lot of creative things. We decided to look at the restaurant industry and the consumer experience of restaurants differently. And that's something I did let a lot of business owners know around the country, is that with every global scenario like COVID or like the global meltdown in 2009, businesses have to start looking at their industries differently, because the industry changes. So the way people consumed food, the way people enjoyed food at home and outside their homes changed. People after COVID wanted to come out now and not just have food, but have additional experiences to food. Before COVID, everybody was ordering food back to their homes because they couldn't come out, or because they were worried about eating in a restaurant with other people. So any restaurant that was not involved in the delivery business, in the catering business, at high speed and a very advanced level, had a risk of shutting down. So we had to, pivot and invest more in our delivery services and our catering services, and change our entire team to support delivery and catering.
Interesting. Now, I know that you had mentioned something about a different type of uh, fast, not fine dining, but places where people can go in and
Fast
purchase.
casual.
Yeah,
So
fast
the
casual. Could you
the
give me an
the
understanding of that? Give
the
us an
conversation has been had, but it's still in the books.
understanding.
But a fast casual option, food trucks options have been discussed,
Mhm.
and we're just going to. But in those cases, because of the uniqueness of the African cuisine, we're going to have to do it very differently. We can't just get a food
Imagine.
truck off the street and do it. African food is cooked and kept best with different types of equipment, not just
Right.
the regular equipment that they use for American food. So the food truck has to be built differently. The equipment has to be set up differently. So in these scenarios, yes, there's the opportunity to go into those angles of fast casual
Mhm.
food trucks, but we have to do it uniquely our own way. We have to reinvent the way it's done.
Mhm. There was a question, how does one create partnerships with Swahili Village?
It depends on the partnership. There's many
Okay.
different partnerships out there. We have entertainment partnerships. Of course, we have food partnerships. On the lower level, there's food partnerships. There's a lot of nightclubs and lounges that don't have food licenses that we supply food every Friday,
Mhm.
Saturday, Sunday. So they don't
Mhm.
have food licenses. They just provide their lounges and music service. So a lot of these nightclubs and lounges, we provide food service. So Fridays, 5 o'clock, we drop off our catering vans are going out and dropping off food in all these locations for them to serve their audience for the later part of the day. Same thing for Sundays. Some churches, we have partnership with certain churches where our restaurant is the food that they eat after the church services. So their congregations of 1,000, 2,000 plus people, we basically deliver food over there. So those are partnerships of different sorts. Then of course we have events like festivals, um, larger events, live events in different arenas. And if we do something like bring a big artist into town or work with a big artist that came into town for a show in a big arena of 20,000 people, people coming to watch an African artist want to eat African food. So we have a partnership where we could partner with the venue or with the arena, and all the concession stands will have African food instead of hot dogs and hamburgers.
Have you done that before?
That's something that we're actually about to start doing because a
Mhm.
lot of those are in the works right now. A lot of big live events are about to be in the works, and a lot of partnerships with those concession stands are going to be rolling out when those occur.
I think it would be interesting to connect you with Tony Abu, who is Nigerian, lives in Harlem, but every year he puts together an African expo where he brings different countries together. He did it in the Marriott downtown, the Marriott Marquis last year. We're looking at doing it in Harlem with the new Marriott. But I believe that things like that, the connectivity of what you're saying, could work well. And from what I understand from Mike, if you are doing an event, African related event, and if whether you're African or Caribbean, if you're born in America, you
Everyone that
say,
comes to it wants to eat African food. They don't want to come and watch a Wizkid or a Burna Boy and eat curly fries.
when you say that there's special types of cooking utensils that are necessary, could you
For
give an
cooking.
example of
I'll give an
that?
example, oxtail. I'll just give a simple example, oxtail. You can't just boil oxtail in a pot. It has to be a special type of pressurized pot, right? Our goat, for example, we can't just fry the goat in a pan, right? We can't just, a lot of our stuff has to be cooked a certain way at a certain temperature for a certain long period of time. Sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 hours.
Well,
So
I'm
these
not
things
sure
can
about
just
the
be made.
goat, but I'm sure that there's some people in the South who would argue about but then again,
Actually,
if they're from the South,
actually,
nine
you're very
times out
right
of
because
10,
the
their
South.
menu
There we
comes from
go.
Africa.
There we go. I was about to throw that in. There is a direct bridge between a lot of states in the South and the motherland. A direct bridge when it
Mhm.
comes to cuisine. When it comes to things like New
Right.
Orleans,
Yeah,
a lot
slaves.
of places around
I
the
mean
yes,
that's
because of the
you don't
yes,
have to be a
exactly.
rocket science. to
Yeah,
understand that.
exactly. That's that culture.
That's the whole idea about awakening the sleeping giant.
Yes.
A lot of Africans who were born in America, I use that
Yes.
because I believe saying that you're an African born in America gives you a larger historic relevance
There we go.
than
In
saying
the
that you're
way,
African American that only has 400 years as far as your existence.
very
So,
right.
uh,
Very right. Very
and a
right.
lot of the food the slaves
Very
brought,
similar. Very similar.
things that the slaves ate are delicacies now. I mean, the pig that the colonizer threw out, the feet, the ears, the tail, you know,
If you,
those things were made in.
I'll give you one quick example. Whenever an African marries like a Black American from the South, the synergies between the families are almost instantaneous because food brings everybody together. The music, it's very similar. It just comes in. It just meshes almost organically. It's almost like a family discovering their lost family, or a family discovering their history, right? Like they just synergize easily, because a lot of times cultures between two families getting married is usually that hurdle, right? But whenever you see like a Ghanaian family getting married to somebody from Louisiana, right? There's a certain mesh, especially when it's a Black American family. There's a certain mesh because the food is similar, music and culture is similar, and the mindset of homeliness is similar.
Yeah, well, it's one of the questions that came up. I know Matt's mind. How many seats are in the various restaurants? I mean,
Usually between
for instance,
250 to 350 seats in all of the restaurants. So we
in
usually are at
each in
maximum
each what?
in each restaurant. It's usually about 250 to 350 seats, depending on whether you want
Wow.
everybody seated, whether you want everybody to be cocktail style standing, whether you want everybody to be standing. It all depends on the event. If it's a 100% seated situation, sometimes it goes to the lower end of 250 to 270, and on the higher end of 300 if it's like standing. The Washington D.C.
It-
location has a patio. The New Jersey location has two patios. The Maryland location doesn't have a patio. It's fully indoor.
wow. That's interesting. One of the other things that you mentioned, and I wanted to make a note to you're open on the weekdays until what, 2 a.m., and on the weekends until 3 a.m. And uh, when
We're open every single day in the year. When there's no day we're closed. We're open every single day in the year because you gotta eat. You have to eat. You have to eat. We're open even Christmas
and
Day.
and and
Every single
and
day.
and and you get traffic though on the
Every day.
weekdays
Every day. Every day.
after
Every day.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Sometimes. Because what happens is sometimes it could be a quiet evening on a Wednesday, and all of a sudden you have a group of 30 people that just came out of a concert, and they're looking for a way to eat. They came out of an African concert, they're looking for a way to eat. They Google, they see us, and they come in there. We don't want to disappoint them. We want them to eat. And that's part of the culture. If you came back to Nigeria, right, and you came to my house in Nigeria, and you knocked on my door at 1 a.m. with your family, hey, Ike, man, I'm outside the door. I open the door. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on all the lights. The very first thing, I'm not going to be like, come on, what's going on? Like, what's happening? I'm going to put on all the lights. I'll say, come on in. And then I go into the kitchen and start putting something together. Like, what you guys want? You want this? You want this? You want this? Well, even if it's 1 a.m. So that culture also has spilled into the culture of the restaurant business, of this restaurant chain, because we're trying to keep it as authentic as possible. That's exactly what we'll do. We won't just close at 10 o'clock because we have to. Because I have to work tomorrow, that doesn't mean I'm not going to let you into my house. If I had to work tomorrow and you visited my house tomorrow morning, my wife would literally open the door and be like, Ike, you're here. Okay, let's put on some clothes and let's accommodate them. And that same accommodating that we do whenever you come into our home is what we're doing in our restaurant. Yes, it's tough because a lot of employees have to work all year round, but they're rewarded on days, special days and holidays. But the biggest thing is the reason why we do that is because that also is part of our culture. That's part of our.
I think that we again had some technical difficulties, but we're back. And I'm talking again to Ike Nwaneri, who is in charge of marketing for the Swahili villages. There are a number of restaurants that are throughout DC, Baltimore, Jersey. One is being looked at to come into Manhattan. And I wanted people to, first of all, meet Ike, who I'm meeting for the first time. And hopefully, this will be the beginning of a long and fruitful relationship.
Of course, of course.
But the Swahili village concept is so unique. When I was looking at the site, and now that I'm listening to you, and I hope other people who are seeing this understand that there is a very unique concept that you have been able to bring that goes in line with awakening the sleeping diaspora, which is the African diaspora, to begin to allow for people to come into your restaurant, I'm sure, and say, hey, I recognize this food, even though it's not from here, but my grandmother used to make that. Or those types of things are very important. Food and music, I believe, are the two major connectivities that are undeniable. You can,
And the ambiance, and the ambiance.
and the ambiance, of course, the ambiance is
Because the African sunset's a little different from all the sunsets around the world, right? When you come in and visit African countries and you look at the sunset, when you look at the sunrise, when you go to the natural game reserves, when you go to the forestry, it's just very pure. It's almost like God just finished making that, like that day, right? It's almost like especially when you go to parts that are remote areas, and that's why a lot of people visit the safaris. There's nothing extra that's done to the safaris in Africa. They literally are the exact same way they were when God made them, right? But a lot of people spend a lot of money to visit these because they're just so beautiful. And that ambiance is similar to the wallpaper within the restaurant. There's the sunsets in the restaurant. There's the migration of the elephants. There's parts where you see the migration of the elephants, the migration of the wildebeests in every single restaurant. That way we're educating, not just awakening, but even educating beyond the diaspora. So once you just walk in, step in, eat, have a conversation with the server and walk back out, you've literally almost traveled back in time or traveled front in time, where you've traveled to the motherland and you've been educated, and now you've stepped out with a lot of new things that you've probably never known, or you probably would have never known if you didn't step into the restaurant.
Now, is the decor the same in each of the restaurants, or just have the same type of theme concept?
Very similar. Very similar. Very similar theme. Red, smooth sunset, subtle lighting, ambiance, LED lighting. It's very similar. Even all the chairs are the same. They're all the same manufacturer, same person that provides them. So the design on them is very African as well. It has some African hearts, some African hints to it. The paintings and the arts on the wall are all from the same gallery, Serengeti Gallery, located in Maryland, which is another business that we support. So we support a lot of Black-owned and African-owned businesses with all the construction. The construction of every restaurant, is 90 to 100% Black individuals and Africans that do the building, the designing, the architecture. The building, the designing, the architecture of every single restaurant is 90% to 100% Black in all their companies and teams, yes. So that way, from the building down to the staffing is very diverse. We have people from Latin America. We have people from 17 to 21 different African countries in the staff. All managers are usually either Black, African, or Latino. We even have a white manager as well. But the workforce is just very diverse. for the most part. But we try to keep it as authentic as possible down to the people you meet when you come in.
Hmm. At some point, we have to invite you to Harlem. There's
I was in
one.
Harlem 2 weeks ago.
Well,
I'm in Harlem almost every month.
you
I come
know,
down
you
there a
could.
lot. I have friends in Harlem.
Okay, well, we have to connect. We might know some friends there. There is an African gallery, one of the largest ones in the city, and perhaps there can be some things there that when you start looking at the New York area, that you might be able to do some business with. But again, for those who may be coming in, I'm talking to Ike uh, Wanari.
Nwaneri. There we go.
Waneri.
There we go. There you go.
Waneri.
Start from the W and you'll be all right.
Waneri. And we're talking about Swahili villages, excuse me. And the concept is just amazing. And to show you how interesting it is, Matt McCoy, who is the CEO of Soul City, when I told him that I was going to have this interview, he says, "Wow, I'm going there for
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming to eat
for
with us.
dinner on Saturday."
He's coming to eat with us.
So I see that your outreach is beginning to grow. Hopefully, through this show, I know for myself, I have to go out. You know, I'm hungry now. I might, you
I'll put it to you like this: you will not regret making the drive.
know.
You won't. You won't. First of all, you eat.
How far are you from? You're in Newark, so
Yes.
what is about a half an hour?
Yeah, max 40 minutes, max.
Mhm.
But it's worth it. It's worth it. Whenever I go down to the New York location, I always come out to New York, visit a couple of friends, either in Harlem or Manhattan, before I head back out. But it's definitely worth the trip. The portions in our restaurant are huge. Come hungry. That's all I'll say. Our to-go bags and to-go plates are one of our most important, assets in the restaurant because everybody always has enough food to take back. Like it's a lot of food. It's a lot of food. But that's part of the culture too. If you came to any African person's house, you will eat a lot. If you went to any African wedding, a lot of people have food that they take back home. So it's the authenticity of the culture all bottled up in the building.
Well, I don't know about anyone else that's listening, but you have not only sparked my appetite, but also my curiosity as it relates to uh, what you have been talking about. You can walk in at any time and you hear wonderful music. The decor is great. The food is great. Uh, the learning curve is improved based on understanding a little bit more about the motherland, uh, and you're developing chains, which means that my family in Baltimore, I, I have to give them the website so that they can begin to understand
Yeah,
that.
the Maryland location serves the Baltimore area a lot. About 35% of people that come to Maryland come from Baltimore City and Annapolis.
Hmm.
So the food is always ready. Food is always hot. Yeah, we have
And you're
9
open
different ways they could reach us.
from 11 to 2 on the weekdays and
Yep.
11 to 3 on weekends. Is that it?
There we go. Yep.
That is an interesting concept, and I would like to thank you for taking some time, and hopefully we will have you back again as you open up new locations. We would like to work with you in promoting them. And
That's the plan. That's the plan. We're starting a situation where we could, a couple of radio hosts are trying to come and have some shows and host their shows from within the restaurant location. So as we design the restaurants, we have certain areas where people can come and do podcasting, host their radio show while the restaurant's going on live. And it's something we decided to accommodate, to modernize the way we do things, So if you came into the Newark location, the Maryland or DC location, there's a section where you could literally run your show from while the restaurant's going on, because we thought
well,
about that.
And one of the things that, and I'm sure that Matt McCoy is hearing this. I have a saying that all things happen for a reason,
Yeah.
and there's no such thing as coincidence.
Yes.
So when I told Matt that we were going to have this interview, and he indicated that, well, he's going there uh, on Saturday. Now he has an understanding of some of the other options that can take place,
Yeah.
whether it's for Soul City and some other.
Yes. I'm very interested in that. I'm the guy you talk to. You just say the word. I'll snap my fingers, make it happen. Like that. You want it? I'll make it happen tomorrow. You want to broadcast live from the restaurant? I'll make it happen tomorrow. I'll call right now. I'll call them right now on speaker. I'll say, Alan Pounders, get it set up, give them a place, and set it up. Make sure that they all come in. Make sure Matt and his people come in, set up their radio station, and broadcast live, and that's it. It's done.
Right. Well, actually, there's two. There's a WACR, which is a radio that's part of City College, but the Soul City Network is a whole different animal. And well, Matt will talk a little bit more about it, I'm sure, to you or to Alan is his name. There are a lot of ideas that can come from that, especially since we're looking to start doing broadcasts in places like Nigeria, Senegal, and Ghana to begin to allow for that type of connectivity to develop. This is the only fully Black-owned broadcast network that's in the market at this particular point.
Very
On
interesting. So now
Apple,
we got to work together. Now we have to work together.
right?
We have to do that. Now you have no choice. By saying that, we got to work together now.
Well, again, the ancestors were already working before we even
I
had
know.
this conversation. That's why Matt's going there on Saturday.
It's not a mistake. It's fate.
So Matt
See,
said it's
Matt
a
said done deal.
done deal.
There you go.
So the ancestors already had this plan. We are only actors on the stage. There's a greater plan for all of this stuff.
Let's make a movie. Yeah.
Matter of fact, and my Nigerian Matt and I have a colleague who, as I had mentioned before, Tony Abu, who's dealing with Blaze, the Blaze channel. So that's a whole nother conversation that we'll have. But I am so glad that we had this conversation, even though
me too. Always
after
a pleasure,
talking
man.
to you, I realized that it wasn't really us; it was a greater power that allowed for us to come together.
A lot of this is the greater power. Some of it, if you hear another time, we'll talk about the story of how, just if I give you a full depth of my life story, how I came to the U.S., how I went to Howard, how I ended up in Howard instead of Harvard, how I started my company out of Howard, how I coincidentally got to meet with Kevin, how I was in the restaurant industry, what happened. Took a couple years off, got to meet with Kevin. Kevin already started this. How our paths crossed, and how now we're here. There's just a greater force working its way, and that's how I look at it. It's a lot of stuff I can't make up. I just can't. I can't have made this up. Like, if you hear the story, you can't make it up. I was not supposed to be here.
Yeah, sometimes
but we're here
reality
now,
is
so
stranger than fiction. So
there we go.
thank you, Ike. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the conversation. I know that this is going to be the beginning of an ongoing relationship and part of our awakening of the sleeping giant concept of bringing Africans born in America closer to where their ancestors are coming from. And our ancestors are talking to us. So we just listen to them and we'll be okay. Thank you, my brother. I hope things go well. Thank you for having the interview on the move. I don't know, you're doing.
It worked out well.
You're doing better on the move than some people who are in their house. So
we gotta keep moving. I always tell the team, We got to keep moving. We just
I
got to
guess
keep moving. You
know,
have to keep moving.
when the ancestors are working with you, it's hard to lose.
I know in the beginning we had a little choppy connection, but once you keep moving, we find the place, the best hotspot, and I'm happy everything worked
Our
out.
ancestors wanted this message to get across, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that there's some hungry people. And plus, it's going to be up. It's going to be up on.
There's hungry people right now. It's 4:58 Eastern Standard Time. Everybody that's leaving work right now is hungry. So anyone listening to this, go grab some dinner. If you're in the DC area, go grab from the DC location. If you're in Maryland, grab from Maryland. If you're in the New Jersey, New York area, Boston, Philadelphia, hey.
And if you want to know where the location is, you just go to the website, which is there. You'll get the location. And actually, you can probably do some booking there, too. So thank you so much, Ike. I appreciate your time. Looking forward. I am starving now after having all of this conversation. So you did a good job.
And call me anytime, man. Call me anytime, even if it means I'm always open. One thing, like I said, on an impact level, helping all these small business owners around the country that are, African-owned, Black-owned, minority-owned. It's really about helping us move the needle for them, because all the minority and Black-owned small businesses are really like the new heartbeat for the entire nation. So my phone line is open. Call me anytime. Anytime you need help, anytime any of your listeners need help, I'm always there. Okay?
Appreciate it. And
anytime.
We will, I was told by one of my elders that sometimes you got to be careful for what you wish for. But
don't worry, blow up my phone. It blows up all the time. You know how many calls came in during this interview? I got to return almost 30 calls now. But that's what I got to do. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on the planet. So I'll do my best. And then when it's time, it's time. All right?
Take care, my friend. We'll be seeing each other soon.
Anytime, brother. We'll see each other. You take care.
All right. And be safe going back. Again, Ike Nwaneri, who represents Swahili, the Swahili Village chain, Baltimore, D.C., Newark, soon to be in New York. Actually, I was trying to convince Ike to do a Swahili Village in Harlem. I think that would really work. Matter of fact, there's this restaurant on 116th Street, boy. They probably would really be able to take that over and do some interesting things with it. So that's another conversation, but who knows? Our ancestors work for you. So thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with Columbia University, my co-host, Charlene De La Cruz. And thank you, Soul City. And this is Tony Rogers signing off. Take care. Bye.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Urbanology.